My name is Monica, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Monica.
Thanks for the intro. That was funny. I was about to cry, and then she said something silly. So, and also thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure to be of service and get an opportunity to tell my story and have a timer within view. That is awesome. My sobriety date is May 9th, 2022. So I just celebrated 2 years. I have a sponsor who is here, and I work with other women, and I have a home group. It's Lake City Young People, Tuesday nights in Lake City. Great meeting. Come one, come all, not just the young people. And I guess I'll just tell my story. I haven't done a speakers meeting. I've done it one time, and it was at the Phoenix Club like 10 years ago. I was sober from the age of 20 to 23. I came to AA, and I worked the steps, and I had a sponsor. And this is after growing up in an alcoholic family. My dad was sort of kind of in AA for court when I was growing up. So like Thursday nights, my dad wouldn't be home, and I'd be like, "Where's Dad at?" "Oh, he's at AA." But he didn't really like work the steps or quit smoking weed. He was what we call now like California sober. But my dad had periods of sobriety when I was young that were super beneficial to me and my family. And then there would be periods of time where he was drinking, which weren't great. And my mom's side of the family, everyone drinks socially, heavily, but not the same way as my dad. Even at like a young age, I could tell that there was something different between them and him. And they also would talk about how my dad was different too. Like, "Oh yeah, your dad's drinking again." Like, ew. And I'm like, "I know." And I joke about it. Humor is definitely something that I use as like a coping mechanism. I think plenty of people can relate to that. If something is awkward or uncomfortable and you make it funny, it's a little bit easier to deal with. So I knew of AA, and my drinking was super obviously out of control from a young age. The very first time I drank, I was not the very first time, but the first time I drank with like unlimited access to alcohol, I was 13. Me and my best friend split a fifth of Monarch 100 proof. We drank the entire bottle. We were drinking shots, and we were like, "I don't feel anything. I don't feel anything. Like, let's take another shot." And then the bottle was gone, and this was like in 20 minutes. And then all of a sudden we're like lying in our own vomit in the little room above my parents' garage. And I took my mom's vacuum the next morning and vacuumed up the vomit with my mom's dry bag and then just put it back in the closet. And then I was just laying around all day, like white as a sheet, sweaty and gross. And my parents were like, "What is wrong? Why is the floor upstairs wet? And why does the vacuum smell like puke, And anyways, so definitely like brushed with alcohol poisoning very early on. And I was scared off of drinking after that for a little while. High school came along, and like my freshman year was mostly just smoking pot daily and taking ecstasy on the weekend with my friends. And then drinking was something that I was kind of scared of based on like how my dad acted, and my dad would often like tell me like, "You're going to get to a point where you can't control how much you drink anymore, and then people aren't going to want to be around you. So just like try to control your drinking." Crazy. This is somebody that spent like years in Alcoholics Anonymous, like where we talk exactly very specifically about like step one, that we don't have any like power or choice in our drinking. And my dad still thought that he could control and enjoy his drinking somehow, and was like trying to teach me how to from like an early age. Super weird. Bizarre. Anyways, so where are we on time? Plenty of time still. It's okay because we're still in high school. Anyways, so I started drinking in favor of not doing drugs because alcohol was easier to come by. And when I drank and didn't get alcohol poisoning, I really enjoyed it. And I started to understand why all of my aunts and uncles were always waiting around for my uncle to show up with the wine at Thanksgiving and stuff. Like, "When's Uncle Terry going to get here?" "Oh yeah, Uncle Terry's here with the wine, And I had wine, and I was like, "This is gross. I don't understand." But, once I started to get a buzz on that wasn't making me sick, I was like, "Oh yeah, for sure." Definitely enjoyed it, and would look forward to like any opportunity to drink. When I was a teenager, I started working in the restaurant industry, and by the time I was 19, I got my first fake ID. The people that I worked with liked to go out and drink after work, and they wanted me to come with them. One of our bartenders had a friend that looked just like me, so I paid him some money to get her valid, like legit driver's license and a debit card in her name. It was like perfect setup. Worked flawlessly. I like to drink at the Rickshaw on Greenwood if anyone's been there. Karaoke night. Yeah. I knew you'd know. And yeah, but I don't know, drinking stopped being fun even at like a young age, as like I had said, I got sober when I was 20, like it stopped being fun. A lot of my friends were involved with like smoking Oxycontin and then later heroin. So they kind of trickled off and went their own way. And then I was like drinking with people that didn't really like me or care about me very much at all, and I didn't care as long as there was alcohol there. I was alienating my family and like the people that I actually truly cared about that knew me really well. Like I remember one of my best friends, Sarah, she's a couple years older, and I lost my fake ID and she was right about to turn 21. And I was like, Sarah, I can't wait till you're 21 so you can buy us booze, And she was like, I don't want to buy you booze. And I was like, what? You don't want to buy me booze? We've been drinking in my car together for forever. Like, well, this is my drinking buddy, and she doesn't want to drink with me. She's like, dude, I don't know if you remember, but you were like blacked out a couple weeks ago, and you were crying and saying that you really think you need to quit drinking. I was like, what? I would never say that. Let's go to the store. Please. Oh, you don't. Yeah. Anyways, and that's still one of my closest friends today. She doesn't live here anymore. She lives in Texas, but we talk all the time. And I can see now that her saying that she didn't want to buy me alcohol was because she cared about me, and she could see that it was like changing who I really was, or I wasn't who I really was when I was drinking. And I guess my last drunk that time around was camping with the family for Memorial Day, and I brought a half gallon of vodka and a fifth of whatever, it doesn't matter. But I was like, oh, I'll make it last the whole weekend. Like I always get in trouble whenever I'm up here because I drink too much and I'm a bitch, and like, I'm just going to not drink too much and it's going to be fine. And I was through all my booze by Saturday. And I had to leave camp. My mom actually took me home, and a voice went on in my head that was like, you can't control how much you drink. Like, you just can't, and I started going to AA after that. One of the bartenders from my work had gotten sober and was going to meetings and was someone that I used to enjoy hanging out with, getting loaded. So sober us also, we got along just fine. And I got to see that like there was a community of people that weren't drinking, that were still having fun and fulfilling lives, and I really enjoyed it. I threw myself into the program. I went to a ton of meetings. I got a sponsor. I worked the steps, and my life got way better. And it stayed better for almost 3 years. And around like after my 2-year period, I hit a bout of pretty intense depression. I'd lost a couple people close to me. Like I had a boyfriend that relapsed and wound up like robbing my parents, and I was just kind of like disillusioned with a lot of things. I think people can relate to that after like the first like couple years of like this is awesome wears off, and then I was kind of in this like plateau, and also just like age wise, I'm 23. I am tired of doing a good 10th and 11th step and like analyzing all my behavior all the time, and I see other people my age like doing what they do, and I'm like, I just get up, I go to work, I go to meetings, I come home, and I'm like constantly just like picking myself apart to be like good enough to like aspire to this spiritual perfection that I somehow convinced myself that that's what the program like asks of us, right? And I can see now where I was wrong there, but at the time I just couldn't see it, and I sought some outside help. And I very specifically wanted to get a therapist that didn't specialize in substance use addiction, like disorder, because I'm tired of framing all of my problems around like that I'm an alcoholic and that I'm fundamentally selfish and flawed. And I'm really more curious to find out, like what's everybody else's fault, if I'm being honest. So we learned a lot about like setting boundaries and this and that and the other thing. And I just looked at the time and realized that I got less time than I thought, and I'm not even getting sober this time. So I relapsed because of my therapist. My therapist was like, you can go to less meetings, and I was like, perfect. Anyways, long story short with that, I did relapse. I stopped going to meetings. I started smoking weed. I was like, I can still talk to God while I'm stoned. It'll be fine. And that's not how that went. And I moved out of state. I lived in Texas for 3 years. The first year was totally fun. The last 2 years were miserable. I got a second DUI while I was down there. I glossed over the first one that happened too. 2 DUIs. And I wound up coming back here to Washington. I was court ordered to outpatient and thus AA. And I definitely wanted to quit drinking because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. But I didn't want to do AA again. I had built up all of this like resentment and mental blockage to what I thought of as the program. And my mind was completely closed off. My heart was completely closed off. I didn't trust people here. I didn't want to do the work and look deep within myself. And it was funny because I talked to people in IOP. We'd be having our little smoke breaks and they'd be like, do you guys go to meetings? And I'm like, no, but you should. And they're like, what? I'm like, no, like you should go. Like, they're really great. Like, honestly, like you'll meet some people that are our age that don't drink and use. You can have a lot of fun there and you can really like learn some useful life skills and have a good life if you go. And they're like, well, why don't you go? And I was like, it's complicated. I know people there and I am ashamed. I didn't want to be the one that like came back and said that it didn't work out there. You know, I didn't want to swallow my pride and come back and tell the truth, you know, until it got so bad, you know. I was, again, doing the California sober thing. After I was done with my court-ordered stuff and I didn't have to UA anymore, I was like, it's cool. I'll just smoke weed and hike a lot and I'll be fine. And I didn't drink for about 18 months and then COVID hit and I was drunk all the time, as I'm sure you guys have heard plenty of people say. And my whole thing about AA has always been, well, if it gets really bad, I'll just go back. I know where to go and I know how AA works and I'll just go there and I'll get sober. And it's never like that when I need it most, you know what I mean? And for the last 2 years of my drinking this time, there was no AA because it was COVID, and all I wanted was to be around other people and get some help and like be sober. And I would honestly like pray to God every morning when I woke up. I'd be like, please, when I was driving to work, I'd be like, please, can today be the day that I quit? Like, let today be the day. And as you guys know, like every day was not the day. You know, by the time lunch rolled around, I'm like, oh, you know, if I just drink a little bit, that would help with the withdrawal. Maybe I'll just like taper off of drinking, you know? And then by the time work's over, oh man, today totally kicked my ass. Like, I'll just stay in the apartment. I won't go anywhere, so nothing bad will happen to me, and I'll just drink tonight, and then tomorrow I'll quit. And all I ever thought about was quitting or drinking, and I wanted to die. I was so miserable. And then I had like a somewhat sort of kind of near-death experience, and I thought to myself, you know, if I ever do die and it's like super random and unexpected, like I won't really be on good terms with anyone in my life. Particularly if there is a God, like I won't be on good terms with God. You know, if I ever have to like meet my maker, you know, like I will be ashamed of who I am, right? And like that just like struck a chord with me. And 2 days later, I wound up going to a bar still, and I saw my sponsor there. And she wasn't my sponsor yet. She was not yet my sponsor, but I knew her from my first bout of sobriety, and I was like, this is a sign, right? This is the universe putting me in the right place at the right time to ask for help and latch onto it. My sponsor is somebody that I've always known and trusted. In the rooms after I'd said like, oh, you know, I hate AA and I hate people that know me. I didn't feel like embarrassed or like, oh, she's going to judge me. And maybe a little bit. I'm probably a tiny bit embarrassed. I know I was crying. But our stories are similar. And I just felt safe with her and was able to start coming back. But I still wanted to smoke weed for a while. So like for the first 6 months I was smoking weed. And then I thought to myself, I wouldn't be able to sponsor anybody. You know what I mean? Like, if that makes sense. I was honest with the people that were becoming my friends, and I was going to lots of meetings, and I was hearing the message, and I was like kind of on board with it. So, some of it was starting to make sense, but I was still kind of like, everything happens for a reason. The program solves all your problems. I was still really nitpicky and like angry about that kind of stuff in the beginning, as I'm sure is relatable to a lot of folks here. The happy stuff was just too happy for me, you know? I wanted the opportunity to like be one of the happy people and be able to be of service to others. So I did quit smoking weed, and now I've been clean and sober for 2 years, and I have a beautiful life, amazing friends. The program really does solve all my problems today, and I mean that. And I do think that everything in my life that's happened did happen for a reason, which is just to be here today and have had the experiences I've had, and it makes me, you know, uniquely useful to whoever, if like that's your vibe, then like I'm the one to like talk to, and if not, like I probably know someone that you can talk to, and I think that's how this all works, right? Like there's somebody for everybody here, not just dating, but yeah, anyways, I mean, you guys are all here for a reason. You obviously all know how to do your thing here, and have found something that works for you. And I'm just grateful to be on the team, like someone that's here that wants to be here, that is looking for ways to be helpful and live a good life.
Thank you.
Thanks, Monica.
Thanks, Monica.